Hi, my dearest family. So here is another video connected to 2026. We have covered a lot of it. So Jupiter in Leo, Pluto, Jupiter opposition, Chiron in Taurus. We looked at the Saturn, Jupiter trine. So you have got a lot of information available right now on my YouTube channel. But if you would like to get more updates that you might want to consider, liking the video as well as subscribing to the channel, or even you can ring the notification bell and also share the video with others. It might be able to help navigate other people's life as well. But today we are going to be looking at Juno. Juno will be spending quite a lot of time in the sign of Aquarius as well as in Capricorn. So the entire year, Juno will be in Aquarius and Capricorn most of the times. So therefore, it means that Juno will be making three conjunctions to Pluto. But before we get going, if you would like to have a reading with me, do so. You can go on my website, AstroViktor.com, and we can look at together how 2026 is going to be shaping your life. We've got some very good and quite a few challenging aspects as well. I believe that I can help you kind of make the most of it. And if you would like to study with me, then I've got a webinar coming up. For example, this weekend, it's going to be about Sisyphus and your karmic loop. So how does that connect to our karma? So let's get going with this Juno retrogression because this might be shifting the relationship patterns quite significantly. So let me just give you the dates first. Juno will be shifting into the sign of Aquarius on March 29. It will be in the sign of Aquarius until August 11th. And then it will re-enter the sign of Aquarius on October 23rd. And then it will leave the sign of Aquarius 2027, January 14th. Like I said, we're gonna have three conjunctions happening to Pluto. So the very first conjunction is going to be taking place on a 5 degree of Aquarius. That's April 20th. So you might want to remember these degrees. 5 degree of Aquarius. Then we're gonna have the next one on July 23rd, which is gonna happen on 4 degree of Aquarius. Both Juno and Pluto will be retrograde around that time. And then the third final conjunction between them two is going to be happening on 3 degree of Aquarius when both planets are actually direct. And two more technical detail. So we've got the 3, 4, or 5 degree of Aquarius that is actually super important. But Juno will start its retrogression on 11 degree of Aquarius and it's going to go back to 25 degree of Capricorn. So how I would go about your own natal chart, I would be looking at if you have got any planets on those degrees. 3, 4, 5 degree of Aquarius, 11 degree Aquarius, potentially 25 degree of Capricorn. Now, but let's get into the juicy part, which is the interpretation part. So let's have a look at Juno, Pluto, and of course the signs as well. When Juno is retrograde, it means that it's a time for us to turn inwards and to re-examine our personal and social contracts. So it will be asking a few questions. What are your non-negotiables in relationships and agreements? What are the power imbalances that need to be addressed? Again, when it comes to partnership, justice, as well as social contracts. Am I truly committed or am I adhering to an outdated obligation? Now, of course, we've got Pluto there, and Pluto, its influence, especially in a conjunction, intensifies and purifies Juno's themes. So somehow this conjunction feels like that it's going to force a breakdown or a complete overhaul of our structures and commitments. And Unfortunately, it could indicate certain type of power struggles within partnership or social groups. It might be unavoidable. And but this could lead to a deep, permanent change in how we relate to others. Now, the retrogression starts in the sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is about future, ideas, sisterhood, brotherhood. So Juno's excuse me, Juno will first bring up issues of commitment within the Aquarian sphere of your chart. So that is connected to groups, communities, humanitarian ideas, friendship, and the concept of equality and freedom as well within the partnership. And then it backtracks into the sign of Capricorn, which represents the structure, the past. So maybe it will be forcing us to review our traditional, established, and even institutional structures, of course, in the world, such as marriage as a legal or financial contract, or corporate partnerships, or even the patriarchal system as well. So the true roots of the problem revealed in Aquarius, and pretty much somehow the solution is found in the Capricorn territory of your chart. And of course, Capricorn represents foundation. So we're going to have three conjunctions. One of the conjunctions to Pluto is going to bring up the issue. The second conjunction is when we're going to have to kind of like, because both of them are going to be retrograde, we're going to have to do a lot of review. And then the third one would be about moving forward. So let's have a look at some potential scenarios that I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine that, there are two ruling establishments, and then they are going to be re-examining of their existing contract. And this could bring up certain type of power struggles because one establishment would like to change, for example, the contractual terms. But also, there could be some power struggles over human rights or group autonomies or even institutional control. And, I also believe that financial power, of course, is going to be a major topic. And, the integrity and the ethical commitments of these financial institutions could come under scrutiny. And, maybe, it's about the digital sphere or certain type of like, unethical things might be exposed, or certain type of corruptions or are exposed maybe by a social group. And of course, there could be some technological regulation happening as well. Maybe a conflict over the regulation of AI or digital identities, or massive technological shifts as well due to fears of control or ethical violation of data protection and all those type of stuff. Now, but more importantly, on a personal level, we are reviewing our connections with others. Who am I committed to? Like a marriage, a business partnership, a contractual agreement, work-related scenarios. So imagine that you start a new commitment based on an ideal that we are, let's say, on a shared mission, or we made an arrangement. But this retrograde is somehow forcing you to face maybe some unaddressed or financial baggage within it from the past, something that might be undermining the relationship. And what Pluto does there, it tries to eliminate these power imbalances or end a commitment entirely. Or I can imagine, because Juno represents fairness, maybe it's going to be happening within your career structure, and that's Capricorn element, right? And you realize that you value, for example, working online or working within a team, and then you partner up with a friend of yours. Maybe you feel underappreciated, for example, in your job, and you contemplate joining or forming, a community, an innovative group. But this retrograde asks you to challenge the structure that you are in. And ultimately, I think this transit also compels you to align with your agreements, with your commitments as well. So what do I want to be committed to? And Pluto, in this case, trying to be empowering you. It really feels like this is going to be a time when honesty within partnerships are super important. And because Aquarius is about ideal, the freedom, the equality elements. This could even indicate that many people will walk out of their relationships because their freedom is somehow threatened. So the initial conjunction is the in the sign of Aquarius, which is going to be the revelation. There are power dynamics, maybe in idealized social contracts. And the process here is that Juno makes the conjunction to Pluto in Aquarius. So there is a global or a national system, let's say like a supply chain, a digital platform, or a humanitarian pact, and it's going to get revealed to have a profound dark flow of power, power abuse. And somehow it might show that it is lacking proper ethical and structural foundation. So imagine that you make a commitment, maybe it's a personal or a business commitment, based on an exciting, non-traditional ideal of freedom and equality. And then in that case, the first conjunction forces a major crisis or a betrayal that exposes the hidden, the corrosive power struggle, or maybe the manipulative element of someone within that partnership. And then it goes back into retrograde. And then we are starting to re-examine the entire foundation of it. So, we're going to start asking, is this relationship or system fair? And then when it shifts back into Capricorn, actually, is it legal? Does it have a material framework? What does the relationship or what holds the relationship together? So I can imagine that, you are forced to look at traditional, aspects of commitments like, I don't know, legal paperwork, financial contracts, family expectations, your career structures. And somehow that initial feeling of freedom is put on hold. And it says, no, we need to establish the necessary discipline, the boundaries, the clear expectations. And then when we've got the final conjunctions, that's going to be, maybe a new groundbreaking treaty or a new legislative reform is passed, for example, or on a personal level, this could indicate that the commitment is either officially or permanently broken because we haven't managed to create the honest foundation, or we are going to be rebuilding this commitment, this partnership based on new, stronger legal or deep vowed structure. And that should be honoring both individuals' freedom, for example, and of course, Capricorn would be the mutual responsibility. So that's how this Juno and Pluto connection will be playing out in 2025. Now, if you would like to know a little bit more about this, then I did prepare a 2.5 to 3 hour yearly forecast for each sign, where I also talk about how this Pluto Juno conjunction plays out for every single rising sign. For example, it's going to be taking place in my 12th house. So it's actually worth having a look at, what went down in your life, for example, connected to contractual agreements and a relationship back in 2020. Because really, 2020 or 2023. And the reason being is because Pluto is hovering through the degrees of that early um, 2020 when we had, sorry, late 2020 when we had the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. And of course, Pluto went into the sign of Aquarius back in 2023. So I hope it helps, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.